Welcome, race fans, to our first episode of Off the Track Where You Get the Dirt. I'm Levi Ray Gotze, and we're sitting here at Blue Chip Technologies Racing Engines. We are a high-performance race engine shop located right here in Heltonville, Indiana, and we thought who better to have on the show for the first time than Jared Bailey.
What's up, man?
Not too much. We're just getting started here, and glad that you were able to take time out of your day and stop by the shop and get to see everything and, kind of give the fans a little idea of how you got started racing these dirt tracks around here. And so we've just got some questions together and kind of get to know the man behind the wheel.
Right. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Jared, I know kind of how you got your start in racing, and we've been, I guess you could say, growing up together throughout the years.
Right.
I was just a few years older than you in school, but
Yeah.
so I know how you got your start. But a lot of these race fans out here, really, have no idea what maybe got you interested in racing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my story's a lot like a lot of people's. My dad raced. Mm-hmm. It was in the yard.
Right.
You know what I mean? The shop was there.
Oh, yeah.
Got interested, spending time with Dad out in the shop and the guys coming around and stuff like that, and just got interested into it. I learned a lot of stuff, learned mechanically wise, and just got to keep going and going and going with it.
Right.
With Dad, of course, he owned his own business also. And you understand how that is. He's can't always get stuff done so he can get to the racetrack. So he had me there, however, whatever age that was that I was up to, 10 to 14.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't do a lot of stuff, but, to him, changing tires, moving
Right.
stuff around. And then, doing that stuff in the evenings when I got off school or in the summertime. I was able to help. So we were able to go race a lot together where it was just me and him.
Right.
And that's how I got started into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely remember being over at your old man's sawmill back whenever I was a child. Because, Dad, I remember him having a Bailey logging on or I think it might have been sawmill. Was it logging or sawmill?
Probably lumber and logs. I still have those pictures.
Lumber and logs.
I've got those.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've still got them. They're in my toolbox.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We, we'd come over in the wintertime and get all the slab wood Dad needed to keep his garage heated, while he was working on the race car throughout the winter.
Right.
And I remember being out there and your old man, giving me all kinds of heck, while I was stacking the wood. And of course, I was young. I didn't understand why we had to stack it. To me, it just made sense. Let's just throw it in the truck. We're going to unload it when we get there.
Right.
Of course, Dad was always, well, we got to get, as much as we can in here with one load. And I'm like, all right. So, yeah, I definitely remember those times, So that was kind of how your dad contributed to my father's race car.
Right.
So, by my dad not having to take so much time to cut the wood, it was nice for us to be able to heat the garage. And, so I definitely had my childhood memories being around your old man. And he was always good to us. And it was always fun watching him on the dirt track,
Right.
And, it was definitely really cool to see you, for me, to get your first win in that modified over at Brownstown. I believe I wasn't there that night, and I was sitting at home, and I don't know, man. I got emotional from it, and it was just really cool. I know I congratulated you on Facebook that night, but it was really cool to see you get that win over there. And, so going into that, at what age did you actually get behind the wheel?
Man, I got into it just a little bit at a young age. I was still in high school, but, Dad wouldn't let me race a whole lot, but what we ended up doing, Dad bought me a bomber off Cam Cobb. I don't know if you remember Cam. He had one of Matt Cummings' old cars. And we got that, and that was back when bombers, your dad, Steven, just, on and on, Bex and Matt Cummings. And you remember that? There
was like 12 of them that could win any given night.
Exactly.
It was.
There was a ton of them there. And then I got thrown right in the mix of them, which at the time, I was just intimidated as all get out. But looking back, that was so much help because those guys were trying to help too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I had a mentor, at the racetrack, and they knew that. But they would also they would kind of go to him because he ran late models. He didn't run bombers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, they didn't know. And they could go to him and tell him, hey, this is what we think he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would, converse and come back to me and help. And it was a ton of help, man. And I got from jumping into one of these things. And I had an outdated car at the time, but it was still, they were in the Cutlasses and stuff, and I'm in the Chevelles.
Right.
But then I'm, time after time after time, I'm right there on their heels.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not beating them. They got a little bit better equipment, but I'm right there on them, and here I am, this kid in high school.
Right.
Shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And now these guys are. So, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, none of the old dogs like to get beat by a new pup.
Absolutely not. And I wasn't beating them. I'm not saying that. But I was right there. If they mess up or they try to take it easy, they try to slow down that last couple laps.
Yeah.
I was on them.
Yeah, you was there.
Yeah.
Well, that's it's neat, looking back at, how young you were to get started. And so you ran the bomber division. I guess it would have been bombers then.
Yeah, bombers. So I ran them for, I think Dad let me get started there in like June or July.
Mm-hmm.
And then, man, I don't remember the exact timeline there because, it was him getting sick and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It messed things up. So I think I ran like 7, 8 races, and then it was wintertime.
Right.
And then we come back, and then he got sick. And then, so I didn't really ever race a ton. I say I've been racing since 03, summer of 03 maybe. But a lot of times it may have been 6 races that year.
Right.
10 races.
Yeah, it wasn't like you was getting 30 shows
No,
in.
it's not like that. It's it was on it. At first it was when Dad had time, and then it became when Dad felt well enough to go. And I remember, this is something a lot of people don't know. The last race I ever went to with Dad was my first ever win at Thunder Valley. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, that is cool.
So my last ever race, or Dad's last ever race he ever went to.
Right.
I won the feature in the Bombers.
That's great.
So
that's great.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
That's one of those little things,
Oh, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Really, your old man, he was, so good to so many drivers and so many people in the community. Anybody that knew him knew he'd do anything for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's definitely missed by many.
Right,
There's no doubt about it,
Yeah.
And so, at that point, you go, what made you decide, hey, one day I'm just going to get in a modified? What made you make that decision?
What happened there, I was pissed at my dad.
Oh, okay.
So he had the late model in the garage. He had just bought off the Sturgeons. That was back when Dan was, on it, going to Florida, winning races and stuff like that. Dad bought a car off of them, put it all together, got sick. He bought it. We found out he was sick in November. He bought this car in October. Found out he was sick in November.
Okay.
So he goes ahead and puts it together. Like, we're determined. You're going to beat this shit, and we're going to race this thing. Well, it didn't end up happening. And that's why I say I was mad at him.
Mm-hmm.
So he sold that. He sold that car and went and bought an enclosed trailer and went to Masterbuilt. And they had a modified down there, and he worked up a deal with Masters down there and got me this car. So he, looking back, he knew he was on his way out.
Right.
So he sold his stuff, got me set up in a modified deal. And he never felt well enough to get it put together.
Yeah.
So then we got it put together after he passed away. So, and then I went and raced it. I think it was that next, 5 races that year.
Okay.
So I ran like 8 races that, couple in the bomber, and then like 5 or 6 races.
Wrapped up the season in the modified.
In the modified. And then I just kind of stayed there.
Well, me personally, I feel like a modified is pretty challenging to drive,
No kidding.
So you made that look easy there towards the end of your modified career. How many years were you actually willing to mod?
Man, I've never actually stopped and thought about it. So you're looking at, what's that, 05? 05, I was racing, like I said, 5 or 6 times, whatever it was.
A few shows a year.
Yeah. And then it just kept on going. Of course, then I'm funding myself.
Right.
And then I'm just a kid.
Yep.
And I raced what I could, had good friends. help me out, barrel fuel here,
right?
Tire there, that kind of stuff. And of course, there was the mom aspect of it, right?
Right.
You're not allowed to go to the racetrack by yourself.
Right.
Had to be.
Somebody needs to be with you.
Somebody's got to be with you. And then that kind of got, at first, there's people going and stuff. But then that kind of, I mean, it was like Dad's employees.
Yeah.
Dad had that trucking business.
Right.
So, like, Dad's employees would be, like, coming in, parking the semi. And I'd be walking across the road. Hey, let's go.
Yeah.
Get in the truck with me.
Right.
You ain't got nothing better to do.
Go.
I need somebody to ride with me. Or Mom's not going to let me go. Here I am, 19, 20 years old.
Right.
So that's kind of what we did. So, and then it built to where I had Robin Bailey
and Trent. Yeah.
Yep. They came up to me one day and said, "Hey, we'd like to help you."
Yeah.
And so, man, they were with me for years after that. They didn't miss a race.
Right.
And if Trent missed a race, which was rarely, Robin was still there. I can't hardly remember Robin ever missing a race.
Right.
So, which was awesome because it's family.
Yep.
I mean, Jeff Bartlett from Times Mill. We even did a few, family traditions and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, we do it for fun.
Right.
We do it as a family. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we just did it for years. And, man, we just kind of did it.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't even think about doing anything else. You didn't even think about going to, different races or we raced.
Right.
So, we tried to hit one a week. Mm-hmm. So then we got to running 15 to 20 times a year. And I couldn't race that much without them.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So,
right.
Which was cool.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I know Trent a little bit, and talked with Robin several times in and out of Kirby Risk, and I can tell how passionate he is about the sport, and just what little bit I have talked to Trent, I can tell that they definitely got it in their blood just as much as you do.
Absolutely, man. And now they're
you guys do whatever it takes to get to the track as much as you can.
And what was really cool about that was it was Robin and his wife Laura and Trent. So there's a family, and they were there every week.
Yeah.
They were always there with me. They stayed, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So
great.
they did it as a family, and then with me as family, we just, we did everything together.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Anytime you get to spend time with your family doing something that you enjoy doing,
right?
Especially racing. I mean, everyone considers the racing, such a big family, and a lot of times it is in more ways than than it just being your family. I mean, my family comes from strong background in racing, but look at me and you. Our dads knew each other so well.
Right.
My grandpa, he loved your dad, and it is a big family.
Right.
On and off the track.
Absolutely.
So. At that point in your modified career, I mean, you were winning races, you was having fun, What made you think, I'm going to move into the late model division? Was that something that you wanted to do because your dad done it, or just something that you personally just felt like, hey, I'm ready to move up to the next level?
I think growing up as a kid, a lot of us want to be in late models.
Right.
It's just kind of the top of ours.
Yep.
You got sprint cars and late models, right?
Right.
Most people love one or the other.
Right.
And late models was it for me, and kind of like you said, I was getting successful in the modified stuff, and that was back when like Josiah was in with Stewart, and Gilpin, we were running with each other, and I was getting successful.
Yeah, and to be able to run against them two and get on that kind of game level.
Right.
I mean, those two. I mean, they both put on a good show.
Right. So so what happened was, it kind of got monotonous. It become, I don't want to say boring, but it was, there's times in your life when you need a change.
Yeah.
So it was almost to the point to where, do I step off for a little bit? You step out of this game and it's hard to get back in.
Right.
And, or make a move. Mm-hmm. So, it's just, I said, I'm going to put my stuff up for sale.
Yeah.
If it sells,
we're going to go get a late model.
We're going to go get a late model because I'm not going to sell just the car and keep this, that, and the other. I'm selling it all. Mm-hmm. And basically what I did, I sold everything. I took the motor out. The guy was going to run he took it to Ohio. He bought everything I had, springs, tires. I mean, he come in with a big stacker trailer.
Yeah.
And we loaded him up.
Sold completely out.
Sold completely out of the modifieds. And I was like, and I told my now wife.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, well, there it went.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Right.
So I was in the Shaw modifieds.
Okay.
And running the Jared Lander style modifieds. And he was racing Lucas Oil stuff, and they had made the switch to Bloomquist cars. And they had top-notch equipment.
Right.
And they had a rocket sitting back there. They tried to sell, which those guys, they don't really care if they sell stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
If
so
they got set on it for a few months,
they don't bother. Yeah, so it kind of sit there for a few months, kind of went stale. And so anyways, I got with Jared's crew chief at the time, Jason, and kind of struck up a deal, hey, I'm getting started. You guys are on the Bloomquist stuff. Let's help me out with the rocket stuff.
Right.
And that's basically where it went. I bought one of Jared's cars, and I ended up doing some swapping around on some motor stuff because trying to get a super motor, and I just built it over the winter. And like I said, I had some help from Jason Durham, and still to this day, he still is a big supporter of mine. And we went super racing.
Right. Now, you didn't really mess with the crates at all, did you?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't.
I didn't
no.
think so, but it's hard to keep track of everybody's years of racing. I stepped away from it for a good little while, and it's hard to remember everything. But
and that's kind of the other reason I went late model racing was I was telling Robin and Trent, I said, man, this is kind of not making sense. We're going and racing everywhere we went and raced. They're racing supers, and supers pay twice as much.
Yeah.
And there's half as many cars here.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? And like I said, it was kind of that not burn out on racing, but
just ready for
needed a
different.
change.
Yeah.
Needed a
well,
change.
I mean, watching your old man run them late models all those years,
absolutely.
I mean, that had to be, something too, I mean, I know watching Grandpa and, a lot of my uncles and everyone run the late models for so long, it was always in the back of my head. But
yeah, for what I was doing, racing 15 times a year, and doing what I was doing, I still have people get on. Why don't you get a crate, man? You can run more races. Well, 15 races a year with what that's where I want to be.
Yeah,
20 races a year.
Yeah,
I told the wife when we went to late models, I said, if we're going to do this, we're going to race a little less.
Yeah,
because you're going to spend a little more.
Right.
But we're going to try to be more. We're going to go on a racetrack and try to have a new tire on the right rear for feature.
Right.
Instead of going and racing 3 times a week, we're going to race once, but we're going to have a little bit better equipment.
Right.
A little bit more newer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way I look at it.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, I can understand that.
A little more quality than quantity, you know what I mean? So, try to win races.
Well, since you've been in the late model division, I mean, what would you consider your favorite track to run on now in the, I guess really any division, but what would you consider your favorite track to hit,
Favorite track to hit, man. It's kind of hard, but I would have to say probably, and it's got 3 different names. It depends on what you want to call it.
Yeah.
Granite City, Pontoon Beach, Tri-City Speedway over there over by St. Louis, man. I really like that track.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to get a hold of.
Right.
There's tough people over there. The promoters are awesome over there.
I've never been.
Yeah, the Gundeckers over there. They're part of Gordy. Yep. That's part of their family, man. They're awesome people, man. The first time I went over there, and this is just, I don't know, maybe this is why I like the place.
Right.
I pull up in there, and Tammy, I think is her name, Tammy. She comes up. She goes, I'm sitting to sign in, and she's standing there. She's like, she introduced herself, and she said, have you ever been here? And I said, no. No, she said, I didn't think so. She said, follow me. So I paid to get in.
Right.
She pulls me around there, parks me right in the very, very front. She said, that's my son. If you need anything, you let me know.
Well, there you go.
Let them know, and they'll help you. We'll figure it out.
Nice.
Man, and you just, I thought that was really, really cool.
That is good.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one place I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to go watch or,
it's
ever
a cool place.
race on.
Yeah.
But, Well, that answers that question. That is a neat story too. Being able to park right next to Gordy and pick his brain if you needed any.
At the time when I did that, I was in a mod. I think he was in a crate, maybe.
Okay.
So they were just Gordy wasn't what he is now.
Right.
He was just a dude racing.
Right.
And here's a new guy that we don't know.
Yeah.
If you need anything, yeah,
right.
And I didn't end up needing anything, but it was just nice to to go over and do that deal.
Right. Well, so you've ran the bombers, the mods, late models.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the divisions that you've ran. Did you ever dabble in the super stocks?
I didn't.
I didn't think so.
No, I didn't.
I wasn't sure about that, though.
It's one car I've never drove.
That was one of my questions I think I had.
Yeah. I've always wanted to try one just because I've never been in one.
Right.
It'd be fun to try one,
Yeah, they're not too bad. We played with them for a few years.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to say, I like the modifieds over the super stocks.
Right.
Of course, they're just, I don't know, something about those things.
Yeah.
They're fun, but
yeah.
So what was, I guess, one question I had was, what track do you feel like is the most challenging to you? Like, what's one track you go to and you feel like you're going to, get a good top 3 or top 5 finish, and then, come back and you're like, we didn't have it together.
Right. I'd say it's a toss-up between Granite City and Brownstown.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you go over there, like, man, I went over there, the last time I went to Granite City, I can't remember what race it was. I think it was the Mod Mania over there. They have a 3-night deal. And, man, some big-time super shows up there.
Right.
Shannon Babbs and Chris Simpsons and this thing, And we went over, it's 3 in a row, I thought, well, if we're going to go, let's catch
all
3 nights.
Right.
Let's learn. And I can't remember if we actually hit all 3 or maybe just the last 2 because of work.
Okay.
Stuff like that. So, anyways, we go over there, and we struggle big time the first night. I mean, I think I barely made the feature, even if I did make the feature over there. I mean, like I said, those Illinois boys, they're tough over there, And so then the next night, I worked on the car all day long. And I went and got a buddy, Zach. And I went and got him, and we tried some stuff, and he was helping Burkhofer at the time.
Okay.
And, he was helping. He was Hudson O'Neill's old crew chief. That's where I met him. Then he was at Burkhofer's, and they were there. Burkhofer was there. I said, help.
Right.
Help.
I need something.
Something,
Yeah.
So we go out there, and the way they do it is, they do a little qualified deal, and they pull you in the infield. Or hot lap deal, pull you in the infield, qualify.
Everybody sits there until it's time to qualify.
Right. So we roll out there, and I go out there for hot laps, and I'm fast time in hot laps until the very, very last second. Chris Simpson was right behind me, and he beats me. So I'm like, yes.
Right.
I just ran faster than Burkhofer, Shannon Babb, all these big Brian Shirley, Bobby Pierce. I just ran, faster times than them. I'm like, yes.
Right.
And then we pull off in, and we go out to qualify, and then I can't remember what was 16th.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Right.
But I'm like, and then I just missed it just that little bit. Going into 3, man, and then that was all. That was it.
Yeah,
said and done.
It don't take much.
So then, like I said, that's a tough track to get a hold of. Brownstown's a tough track to get a hold of.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I'm sure you've heard it, man. People say if you can get around Brownstown, you can about get around anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's weirdly correct,
Yeah.
When I ran that Battle of Bluegrass series a little bit.
Yeah, I remember.
17, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And we traveled to some different tracks and stuff. And I was more successful than I expected to be.
Yeah.
And I think, going to Brownstown and struggling a little bit, and learning that helped.
Yeah.
Learning what to do.
Yeah, I remember watching you up at Kokomo at the end of the 2017 season, and you guys were definitely having a good night up there that night,
Yeah, that was a cool night, man. I went up there, and like I said, this is only like my, second year in the late model, and I qualified, I think, second to Kevin Weaver. So I told Trent when I roll out there, I said, we're going to take off. I'm going to let Weaver, and I'm just going to latch onto his bumper and go. And, just try to, because I think there was 3 heats, so let's put a second row in the feature, first heat, second row in the feature. We'll be good. We'll be all right.
Right.
And I go out there, and I beat him, and I'm like, what is going on around here, So, like I said, and then just driving the racetrack, it was a ton of fun. That's a cool place to race.
It is a cool track. I've only been up there one time myself, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a neat place. I mean, they've definitely got their act together.
Yeah, they do.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so now, you kind of got, a pretty big name in the late model division, I mean, as a local driver, you're still going out here and hitting some of these big shows,
Right.
and
You gotta
traveling.
get your butt kicked every now and then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good though to see a
helps you at
guy
home,
that
yeah.
that you grow up with to be able to race on that kind of level.
Right.
I mean, you and Joe are probably the two closest I have
Right.
that I grew up around that are racing on such a high level.
Right.
Is what I would say in the late model division. And it's always good to see you guys both running up front. No matter where it is you go. I think you got you a win down there in Florence at the end of last season.
Yeah. Yep, back
that
in
was
September.
awesome.
Yep.
How you like that track?
I do like that track.
It's pretty fast. It looks like
it's a weird track. That's weird that you bring that up. In the modifieds, we went over to Eldora, and I'd never raced over there.
Right.
And car was pretty good over there. I think if I remember right, I think I drew like a 75 out of 75, no qualifying. And went out there, missed the heat by won the Consi. I think no cautions. We started like 22nd and ran 9th, which I thought first time ever being there, that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we go up there and, like I just remember the Consi was right on the top. Right on the top, So then, you you're just keeping that speed up, up. So then the next week we go to Florence. And I come in and I tell Trent and Robin, I'm like, this feels faster.
Yeah.
What in the world is? And I think it's because we slow so much down.
Yeah.
And then you got the long straightaways. At
right.
Florence. But yeah, that's a fun racetrack, man. I try to hit that place 2 to 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Last year I hit it. I think the first race of the year and the last race of the year.
Yeah.
And I tried to go down there, but I was building a house and had a baby and everything.
Right.
This
Had a
past
lot
year.
going on.
Had a lot going on. So
Yeah.
I didn't get down there as much as I like to. But
Right.
but I try to hit that place 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, it looks like a great track. I mean, I've watched it a lot on, YouTube videos, whatever pops up on Facebook,
Right.
And it definitely looks like a really fast, track, and
Yeah.
looks like a lot of action takes place down there,
Yeah, I think that's that. You slow down the corners, and that's where you can get the action. When
Right.
you slow down, you have
watching
to.
them guys coming off off the top.
Yeah.
It looks like they put on a good show for the fans down there.
Yeah.
So who all do you have helping you on the car now? Now that Trent and Robin's busy with the crate, are you guys able to get them guys to still help on yours, or
They're pretty busy on their
that's
stuff.
what I figured.
Yeah. No, they helped me there a couple races when they were off at the beginning of the year, but after that, they're doing their own thing, which is awesome. I'm
Right.
totally behind them and help them anytime they ask.
Absolutely.
I try not to stick my nose too much in their business.
Right.
But if they need help, absolutely. But
that's good.
I kind of got like a mix of people that help me now.
Yeah.
Rock Fleetwood. Dad. He helped Dad.
Right.
He loves coming around to the races and stuff.
I remember Rock.
Yep. And, he helps a lot and much as he can. My cousin Robbie, he's from over in the Seymour, Columbus area.
Okay.
I don't know exactly where he lives. Somewhere over in there. He meets me at the track. He's been meeting us at the track, and he's good to help me with tires, man. That's huge.
That's a big help.
Yeah, when that's what he did for a living was tires and stuff, at shops. So I can just say, all I got to do is point that one there, and he knows the air pressures. I know they're tight. I don't have to worry about
that.
I just make sure the right ones are right. He don't know racing. He don't know why this one's cut that way. But if I say that one there.
Yeah, he's on it.
He's on it, man.
Right.
So that helps a ton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I can be working on shocks and springs and stuff like that.
Right.
And then they take care of that stuff.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, one thing I've kind of been wondering is what your maintenance program consists of through the work week. Are you pretty much the only guy taking care of the car at the shop?
Rock comes out and helps.
Week, Rock does.
Yeah, he comes out and helps. He's my bolt check guy.
Okay.
And
that right there is a lot.
It's a lot, and he's my bolt tightener.
Yeah.
You're not coming loose, I'm telling you, because I got to get the impact out
sometimes. You're breaking out a 4-foot cheater pipe to get something broke loose.
Yeah. So, but as far, and then shocks and springs, man, I take them off every week, go through them.
Yeah.
Put them on the spring smashers and all that stuff and do all that stuff. check for, breaks, wears, tears, all that kind of stuff,
Right.
But yeah, I'm in the shop every night, 2 to 3 hours every night after work, get off at 3, run there, and then try to be in when I can.
Now you got a little one.
Now I got a little one, man. So
right.
that's something that I've been trying to do before. I'd be out there till 8, 9 o'clock every night.
It didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Right.
Now I try to be in. Her bedtime's 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Right.
Try to get my butt in there. Try to come see her, then go work on the car, then get my butt inside.
Right.
So it's been working out. I just got to make sure I can't just stand around and drink beer instead.
Get
some work done.
Kind of all goes back to the you and your wife having the discussion of trying to keep it 20 races and be more on top of your game versus trying to run 45 shows in a season.
Exactly.
Some of these guys are out here running 70 shows, but they've got 5 guys working on their car every day. So there's a big difference from a guy that goes and puts his 40 hours in a week.
Exactly.
Still has to have family time. And then you got to take care of the car. I mean, the car ain't going to take care of itself.
But that's like when I first got into late models, stuff, and had the white car.
Yeah.
My first year, I was working Saturdays. So I'd have to have everything done, loaded up Friday night. So then when I got off work, run home, grab it, and take to the racetrack, So sometimes my dumb butt would even get back up the next morning and go back to work.
Yeah.
So, work 7 days plus trying to race. It gets tiring. I mean, that's a lot of work, but, you got to love this stuff.
Price to pay, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, what would you say, looking back over all the years of racing, that you would consider your most memorable race to you?
Probably the last race with Dad.
Yeah.
That's probably got to be it. Even though it's a bomber.
Yeah, man. There ain't nothing wrong with a win and a bomber.
There's nothing wrong with a win and a bomber. I've won late model races.
Yeah.
Won modified races.
Right.
But,
knowing your old man was right there that night. That's great.
That last one.
That's really cool.
Yep.
Well, not everybody is fortunate enough for that to happen,
Right.
I was lucky for that to happen because my dad was actually on the track the night I got my first win.
That's cool.
So I think he ran second.
Really?
I believe.
That's awesome.
I'd have to ask him. But that was in 98. So
okay.
It's been a while, We'd have to holler at him sometime and ask him that. But some guys aren't fortunate enough for that to happen, but that's great that your old man was there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of some, I asked what the most memorable thing was. What would you think, looking back, is the worst thing that ever happened at the track, as far as a bad night?
I'd say probably the worst thing.
I don't know. I can't think of any terrible crashes that you've had that I know of.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've had them.
I've had them, but I try to stay out of. When you pay for your own stuff, you drive off in $150 bumper. You know what I mean? So
right.
Sometimes it's hard to think that way, but probably they had a race at Brownstown after he passed away, and it was in memory of him.
Yeah.
And we just went off in the corner, and I hadn't been in a modified 6 or 8 times.
Right.
And they had one, and back then there was 45 modifieds every night.
Yeah.
So I made the race, I pushed it, and probably the worst thing was, we just. Right off the bat, first, second lap there, man, we just went off in the corner there, and somebody, he's actually a friend now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've never spoke about it. So
okay.
Yeah, so he's actually a friend now, so we never spoke about it. But yeah, he just went off in there and just drilled me right in the left side, broke everything.
It happens.
And I was like, Dad's race, I made it. I'm just trying to get top 5 here,
Right.
And really, really pushing it, and just. For no reason, we were running like 15th, and I get ran over in like the second lap.
Yeah,
that was really, really disheartening.
Right,
trying to run a race that they're running in honor of your late father. So that was probably the most disheartening race. I've almost flipped and hurt and stuff, but that was probably the
let down,
fingers stuck in the grinder and end up in ambulance and all kinds of stuff. That's probably the worst part of it.
What about last summer? I think it was. Didn't you get a winch break on you?
Yeah. So like I was talking about earlier, working Saturdays. Yeah. So I was loading the car up on Friday night and taking it up in there, man. And I was laying underneath the car, pulling it down, and so I was pulling it up on a ramp. And what ended up happening, of course, at the time I wasn't 100% sure. The winch just broke.
Yeah.
And there I'm laying underneath it. and the rear end come back. So when the car come back and ran me over,
right,
the rear end, the bottom nut on the quick change hit me right here in the head.
That's what got you.
That's what got me. I was
wondering about that.
Yeah, so that's what got me. And man, I thought I'd cracked my skull because I about stuck my finger down in there about an inch when I reached up there.
I bet.
Pouring down,
Right.
And luckily, luckily, the band upstairs was looking over me.
Right.
Because it had the car caught in two different ways because I'd already put the ratchet strap on.
Okay.
So it was only going to go so far.
Right.
And then when the car come back, the car turned to the right. So it was actually
wedged
in the trailer.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of times we're all in a hurry and we're,
Yeah, I was just trying to get the car loaded up so I go home.
We're trying to get everything ready and get to the track and get home from the track.
Right.
And you work your tail off and, like you said, the man above, he watches over all of us all the time.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times we all take that for granted, but, there's been a lot of close calls for a lot of us over the years around race cars, that's for sure.
Yeah. It was crazy. And then the next day, we go to the races and everybody, I'd show up and everybody's like, what are you doing here, because I was in the emergency room.
Right.
Till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And didn't end up going to work and had to text my boss and blah, blah, blah.
I can't come to work, but I'm going racing.
And I said that. But my boss is pretty cool. He understood.
Yeah.
He's like, just don't put anything on Facebook, right? Don't blast it out there.
Yeah.
So
it's okay to talk about it in 3 years, but
exactly.
not today.
Yeah. So I ended up winning the heat race, led the feature for like 14 laps.
Yeah.
And I think I ended up like third or second or third.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And
not a bad way to wrap up,
Yeah, and I felt horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. My eyes were hurting where I got hit in the head, and the teeth were hurting. But yeah.
Well, there's, however many years I've been around it, I've watched a lot of family members and friends and just guys at the track climbing cars when good and well they shouldn't.
Right, absolutely.
But honestly, we all know once you get in, you get strapped in, as soon as those tires hit that surface.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
you don't even think
you
about
ain't thinking about those hurt ribs or that bad shoulder or whatever. It kind of like goes away and
that adrenaline kicks in.
It does. It kicks in.
Yeah.
And it kind of overrides everything. You watch these parents that like pick up cars sometimes. To get their kid out from underneath them or something, and that's kind of like what it's like. You just you forget about everything. So I guess who would you consider your favorite competitor as far as, I mean, it wouldn't matter if it was looking back in the Bombers or the Modifieds or late models now. I mean, who's somebody that you really enjoy running against? You can get, door-to-door action and neither one of you, put each other in a bad spot,
I'd say probably, and that's a tough question. I've never actually thought about that before. Probably off the top of my head. It's probably Gilpin.
Yeah.
Me and him, we kind of started the modified stuff about the same time, even though he's younger than me. He started young. And then he moved up to late models about a year before I did. Mm-hmm. And then I moved up. And then we've always raced.
Kind of held together there.
Yeah. We raced each other a lot, and he obviously, he'll push you. And there's no doubt, Chase, I've got to be the number one person that trained second to him because I bet I've done it 30, 40 times.
Right.
At Brownstown, I ran second.
I mean, anybody to run, even to be able to say that they ran against him as far as actually gave him a challenge is, somebody to be talking because, he can get on the track. And it don't matter what happens, and he's got to go to the tail.
Yeah.
He's still going to work his way up there for a good top 3, top 5 finish for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes it look easy.
Yeah.
And it makes it, a lot tougher on anybody else, when he shows up, So I kind of figured he might have been your guy.
Just because we just raced together so much, and we raced each other with a lot of respect, and, we butted heads when we first started.
Yeah.
But after that, man, I mean,
it's to be expected.
It wasn't much at all, and then we just, there was some times there where people would try to say he was, roughing people up a little bit or whatever. But man, every time he got to me, he always showed me some respect.
Right.
And I always showed it right back. So, yeah. So
that's kind of how it goes. It seems like, most guys that, run each other clean or, run each other dirty. You know, one guy feels like this guy done something to him. The next week, I'm gonna pay him back, and
Right.
you know, I know back in the day, you know, it seemed like most drivers handled everything off the track.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they don't want us to do that no more.
Things have gotten a little bit different over the years. You know, you don't see too many crowbars flying.
No.
Wheel wrenches or
Sometimes
anything.
I think we need to
know?
let some of that stuff happen. You know what I mean? Instead of going to the driver's meeting and say, "Well, you're going to end up in jail if you take care of yourself." I'm like, if you let us take care of it ourselves, that some of this stuff would just stop.
They just need to put a boxing ring out in the middle, and then everybody can bet money at the end of the race, and then we'll just go from there. But you know, it was always interesting watching a lot of the big guys in late models, you know, as a kid, and then you know, you kind of pick who you like, and you know, as a kid, I always really liked watching Donnie O'Neill at Brownstown, you know, and guys like him, and you know, to watch someone that's a local driver to be able to go out and compete against all these big name drivers. It's always great to watch you run with them guys and get, you know, good top 3 finishes and wins. And I mean, it's really cool that you're doing what you're doing out here, and you know, living right here in Heltonville. You know, you've ran the number 24. Your dad ran 24.
Right.
So was that number a number that he got from something, or was that just something that was he the first driver that ran the 24 for, you know, what made him choose that number?
So the way I understand it, and I'd have to talk to my family statisticians, you know what I mean?
Right, make sure.
But the way I understand it, and it may have went on beyond this, and Robin would actually be one to ask this question.
Right,
but
we could call him, put him on speakerphone.
Yeah, but my Uncle Lester, which was Dad's older brother, he passed away, I think, right before I was born. He was racing and had the 24.
Okay.
And then Dad had it. And then,
well, then Damon, did he not wear a 24 on his jerseys playing basketball, or what number was Damon?
22.
22. Okay.
Yeah.
I had that in my head earlier. I went down to Boneheads to get some drinks and for the shop, and I drove by his the monument there by the old school, and I don't know what made me think about his number.
Right.
But I was thinking he was 24, but that clearly tells. Sorry, Damon. You know, but well, yeah. So you know, a lot of people, you know, get numbers in their head, you know, stick to it. And I knew your dad ran 24, but I never was sure. So I didn't even realize that he had anyone else in the family that raced.
Yeah, so his brothers had raced, and this is definitely a Robin question. But I do know, you know, his brother Lester raced, his brother Roger raced. I think Robin's dad, Carl, I think he even dabbled. I don't think a lot of them raced a ton.
Right.
But they all kind of dabbled in it and did that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's just been a trickle-down effect for me.
Right. It's hard to get away from it when you get a taste of it.
It's in the blood, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, once you get hooked on it, it's tough to walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I did for a long time, and then kind of got sucked back into it, and it's definitely difficult. You know?
Yeah.
You get around it, and you just get used to it. And as a kid growing up, going to the track every weekend, I mean, I remember you guys always being there. And seems like I even recall Grandpa talking about Damon trying to go and watch, and people would kind of like bother him for
I think he tried to go with Dad some, and ended up being chased through the pits by girls and stuff like that.
I've heard them stories before.
Yeah.
To where it seems like Grandpa, we'd have to ask him, but I think one time Damon would even, because Grandpa used to have them box trucks and things to kind of get people to the track and tools and all that. That was a big thing back in them days.
Yeah.
He would sneak Damon in, I believe, to where people didn't even know he was at the track. That way he could watch your dad race and not get pestered. You know?
Yeah.
So I always thought that was a cool story, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't remember it, but I was probably really young, I'm sure. But, you know, growing up with a cousin like that, with that kind of name, and then, you know, you guys racing, and everyone in our area pretty well knows who you guys are, you know.
Yeah.
So it's always cool to hear stories like that, you know. Well, you know, I really think I've kind of ran through all the questions I had for you.
Right.
You know, definitely appreciate you coming by today and talking with us at Off the Track podcast.
Yeah, man.
We've, definitely took up probably more of your time than your wife wants us to. I'm sure you're eager to get to the shop and get to working on that late model. And
yeah, I got work to do.
2020 season's coming up really soon here. So before we get off here, though, what's your plans for this season as far as how many shows and what's your main focus? Are you going to try to stay local, or are you going to be going out for any big money shows? Or
it just kind of depends on what these next few weeks brings. You know what I mean? Getting ready before the season starts. I've been tossing up the idea of a couple different things, maybe just hitting bigger shows. But probably in all reality, what'll end up happening is, we'll probably hit most of the Brownstown races, if not all of them.
Okay.
Which I've heard it. Of course, they don't put the schedule out. They'll probably put that out this week, with the banquet and stuff or something close. I've heard there's somewhere around, 14 races scheduled.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, 10 to 12 of those actually getting in. So that's kind of what I was saying earlier about the 15 races.
Right.
So if they get 10 of those in, then they'll probably go hit, Richmond, Florence, who knows, maybe even go to Eldora, some stuff like that.
Right.
And just hit some stuff. And then, 15, 16, 18 races, probably what I'll do is probably what we'll do, do it as a family, take the baby and wife and that kind of stuff.
Try to make a whole weekend out of it.
Yeah, and do some stuff and have some fun and make some memories and, have some fun.
Right. That's what it's all about. I mean, if we weren't having fun, there wasn't no sense in doing it.
Exactly.
A lot of times it's hard to have fun because you're so focused on trying to do good.
Yeah.
And you come home and things didn't go right. And you're frustrated, and it can go really good or it can go really bad.
Right.
But the main thing is making sure you're having fun, whether that's in the shop or at the track. You know. Well, Jared, we appreciate your time. Join us again here at Off the Track podcast, and I think we're going to close this baby down. That way you can get home and see your wife and kid and enjoy the late model time in the shop. So my name's Levi Gotze, and we're here at Blue Chip Technologies Racing Engines. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll see you next time. If you haven't already, like us on Facebook, please be sure and like us. And you can also visit us at bluechiptech.net. And if there's anything we can do to help you guys out with an engine, just give us a call at 807-7050. Thank you.